Part 105. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1041. Chapter 1041 Li Ning is Qian Xian'er 8. These words of Qian Xian'er made Xian Kaiping rush over and hug her into his arms, not wanting to let her go again. The actions of Qian Xian'er and Xian Kaiping also made the other two men sad, especially Qi Zhan. He always thought that as long as he explained the past to his beloved and explained that he was not sorry for her, she would come back to him. He forgot that before him, there were two better men than him. At the beginning, he suspected that there was someone in her heart, maybe it was Xian Kaiping, and she might have loved Xian Kaiping in her heart. Now that everything has been explained clearly to Xian Kaiping, nothing will happen to him. He can leave. Qi Zhan has always been a man who knows how to advance and retreat, and he is also a considerate man. He puts Qian Xian'er as the first condition in everything he does. He is a gentle and considerate man, knowing that even if he stands up at this moment, he will not get any benefits from her. Perhaps when they got divorced, they had already broken up completely, and there was no possibility of it. Qi Zhan left lonely and silently. Only Qian Yuman noticed his father's departure. Qian Yuman felt very uncomfortable and turned around to chase her father. When Tang Yu saw his wife running away, he also chased after her. "Dad, don't leave in a hurry," Qian Yuman ran after him, looking anxiously at his father's dejected look. "Dad, why don't you go for it? Do you also love this mother deeply? You and your mother are the most suitable couple. Uncle Xian and Mr. Tang are both people who have let down your mother. The reason why your mother chose to marry you was because you are suitable for her. If you don't let her, she won't choose you." Qian Yuman enlightened her father. Qi Zhan shook his head and smiled with a smile on his face. "You saw the scene just now. They are so well matched, and Xian'er has forgiven him. As early as after getting married, I discovered that there was someone else in her heart. Now it's just that the thing has returned to its original owner and he can leave." "Did Dad give up on Mom just like that?" "Mom said this because she lost her memory. Maybe she will regret it when she regains her memory. When her memory is restored, the person she loves will not be me," Qi Zhan said with humiliation. "I'm sorry, my baby girl, I didn't get your mother back and let you continue to stay in a single-parent family." Qian Yuman's eyes were slightly red. She shook her head quickly, and hugged her father's arm distressedly. "If I don't behave well, you are the best dad." She has always longed for family reunion, and has always thought about a happy life with her father, mother, and sister. But she didn't expect that there would be so many additional conditions. Sometimes, it's not something she can do just by thinking about it. My parents have divorced, and now there is another Xian Kaiping. Things are unpredictable and no one expected it. Forget it. Let's go. It's uncomfortable to stay here." Qi Zhan covered his slightly aching heart and forgot about the wedding scene that was still on display. After Qian Yuman and the others left, Tang Wentao hadn't left yet. He finally found Qian Xian'er. How could he just leave like that? Just give up? "Xian'er, do you really want to be with him? This man who has failed you? I would rather you be with Qi Zhan than see you with this scumbag." It wasn't because of Xian Kaiping. He and Qian Xian'er would definitely be able to overcome all difficulties and be together in the end. Qian Xian'er pushed Xian Kaiping away and looked at another familiar face. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1042. Chapter 1042, The Fall of Warmth 1. It wasn't because of Xian Kaiping. He and Qian Xian'er would definitely be able to overcome all difficulties and be together in the end. Qian Xian'er pushed Xian Kaiping away and looked at another familiar face. "Mr. Tang, I know that for you, there was an unforgettable relationship between us in the past, but it all belonged to my previous life. I have lost my memory and can't feel the feelings I had for you at all. In my opinion, it's like looking at the past life, and it doesn't make me feel heartbroken. I have lost my memory, and I don't know when it will recover. It may never recover in my lifetime. Now that I have forgotten it, let it dissipate with the wind and let it pass. I just want to seize the moment and live the life I want. For what you did to me in the past, I forgive you and we can still be friends in the future. When Tang Wentao heard what his friend said, he was not surprised at all. It was because of guilt that he didn't look for her. Even if he stayed in the same city, he didn't know that she was in S city. Even if he knew at the beginning, he didn't want to find her at all. Disaster. Siener, I. Tang Wentao sighed deeply, and finally left lonely. He knew that he should leave, and there would be no consequences if he continued to stay. It was better to leave gracefully and give himself the last trace of dignity. The wedding finally ended. Qi Zhan flew away overnight. No matter how Jian Yuman tried to persuade him to stay, he did not stay. Being unable to see her mother and father get back together left some regrets in Jian Yuman's heart. After Jian Yuman left the Xian family, she stayed with her father after he left. 2 days later, Jian Yuman suddenly discovered that Tang Yuj had not been looking for her for several days. Only then did she realize that she had forgotten to care about Tang Yuj and was hurt that day. Of the juniors, he is the only one. She immediately called several times in succession, but no one answered. Jian Yuman was still worried. At this time, Jian Yuman was having dinner with Kenny. Whenever a text message came in, she would check it hurriedly. If a call came in, she thought it was Tang Yuj who called back, but she was always disappointed. Even when eating with Kenny, she was absent-minded. Kenny, who was sitting opposite, naturally saw clearly what Jian Yuman had been doing, and he spoke proactively in his usual considerate manner. "You care about him so much, why don't you go and take a look?" Kenny asked with a faint smile. Kinioba knows, is it clearly written on her face, is she worried about something? Kenny smiled lightly and shook his head. "I'm just too familiar with you, and I can always guess what you're thinking. Every time I see your disappointed look, I know you're waiting for a call. And the person who can make you so sad without rushing to find her must be Tang Yuj." Jian Yuman pouted and said helplessly. "Kenny Appa. How did you guess so accurately? Don't misunderstand me, I just haven't been able to contact him. I also told you what happened between my mother and the elders that day. He hurt his mother and what happened to him must be very painful. I am just worried about him as a friend. Don't misunderstand what I have with him." Jian Yuman didn't have 300 taels of silver to explain, just because he was afraid Kenny would misunderstand. "I won't misunderstand you if you want to go, just go find it." "But she was still hesitating. "In what capacity does she care? Ex-wife? Or a bed partner?" She actually wanted to be together as a lover, but they were no longer possible. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1043. Chapter 1043, The Fall of Warmth 2. But she was still hesitating. In what capacity does she care? Ex-wife? Or a bed partner? She actually wanted to be together as a lover, but they were no longer possible. Don't hesitate. Life is short. Whatever you have to do, you must do it in time. Just like Enciener and Cien Kaiping, they missed it for decades because of procrastination. If you regret not caring in the end because of hesitation, you will feel even more sorry for him. Kenny tried to persuade Jian Yuman, and every word he said was like a hammer, hitting her hard, making her slowly wake up. "Thank you, Kenny Oba. You are simply a bright light in my life. I will go find him now to check on the situation. Jian-yuman wiped the residue on her mouth, stood up happily, said goodbye to him and left. When leaving, Jian-yuman's face showed a happy smile unconsciously. It could be seen that she was really happy. In fact, she already had the answer in her heart, she just didn't see it. Kenny looked at the sound of Jian-yuman leaving and smiled slightly, but there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. Perhaps Jian-yuman herself didn't realize that she and Tangyuj still had feelings for each other, but they were blinded by the past and did not see what the other cared about most. Xiao Daobi didn't see it clearly. Her heart gradually moved closer to Tangyuj. The pain of leaving the little princess and being hurt had been smoothed over by time. She clearly hasn't let go of Tangyuj yet. She is most relaxed only when she is by Tangyuj's side. Why would he try to separate them when he knew what she cared about most, and ultimately benefited himself? He still likes to see her inner confidence and happiness. Since she can't forget Tangyuj, he will continue to silently protect her and her feelings. Even if he cuts her off with tears, he will slowly push her forward, and finally understand what he needs most. As long as she is happy, that is more important than anything else. Although I know it's not worth it, what's the point? Compared with the happiness of his beloved, what does his little sacrifice count? It's just that for Tangyuj, he has to keep a lot of checks to prevent him from continuing to hurt Xiao Daobi. If he finds that he can't give Xiao Daobi happiness, then he will not be soft and take her back. Guardian Knight, Guardian, not everyone can do it, and it is not easy to do it. Little funny boy, no matter what, just be happy. Jian-yuman called Tangyuj continuously but no one answered. She called Secretary Zhang again and got the answer that Tangyuj was resting at home these days. As for what he was doing, he didn't know. He just said that he would not go to work during this period and would leave all the power to him. Zhang Tianrui handles the work of the Dihao Group branch. It is convenient to know that Tangyuj is at home. She ran to ask Secretary Zhang for the villa's key card, and then ran to find Tangyuj. When Jian-yuman opened the door to the room, a smell soaring into the sky spread out, and Jian-yuman couldn't help but cover her nose. Did Tangyuj kill someone at home, then boil the corpse, and then the meat would rot to create such an intoxicating smell? After Jian-yuman entered, the first thing she did was to open all the windows to allow air to circulate, otherwise if you stay in there for a while, your body will have problems. Jian-yuman looked at the garbage everywhere on the ground. How long had it been since his house had been cleaned? There are also some pieces of art that were smashed. They are too luxurious. If she doesn't want them, just give them to her. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1044. Chapter 1044, The Fall of Warmth 3. Jian-yuman looked at the garbage everywhere on the ground. How long had it been since his house had been cleaned? There are also some pieces of art that have been smashed. They are too extravagant. If she doesn't want them, just give them to her. If you want to vent your anger, you can yell at her, but even if you hit her a few times, you can't smash the art pieces. What a pity, what a pity. The wealthy tycoons are different, and the things they do are beyond the capabilities of our ordinary bosses. Jian-yuman searched around and finally found Tangyuj in the bathtub. There was no water at all, but he was lying on it, covered with a blanket and sleeping soundly. Did he change a place to sleep? Jian-yuman chuckled and ignored Tangyuj, turning around and starting to clean up the mess in the room. I am not worried about Tangyuj, because every time he gets drunk, more than half of the time he will fall asleep in the bathtub. The stench that came in this time was a mixture of multiple types of wine. Coupled with the smell of wine all over Tangyuj's body, a lot of wine was poured on the ground. Jian-yuman was tidying up and would look into the bathroom from time to time to see if Tangyuj was awake. Last time, he found that the boy showed no signs of waking up. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, he heard Tanyu's drunken murmur. "Mom, I miss you so much." Qian Yuman's body trembled, and she turned around and looked at Tanyuj tenderly, who was mumbling in pain. She walked to Tanyuj and gently held him in her arms. He must have been in pain because he had never had a good relationship with his father since he was a child. He watched his father cheat on her again and again, and even finally married a mistress and brought a pair of children to occupy her mother's position. These are not the most painful things for him. Tanyuj left home when he was a child. He left home at the age of 3 and did not come back until he was 14. When he came back, his mother was no longer in this world. Tanyuj, who was in so much pain, must have been unable to accept that he would never see his mother again. As a result, I heard what Tang Wentao, the irresponsible father, said yesterday. The reason why he gave birth to Tanyuj was to divorce Tanyuj's mother. Giving birth to him was just a tool for divorce. What he has been thinking about till now is thousands of years old. Fairy. Scumbags like Tang Wentao are simply beasts. He has hurt 3 women in his life, hurt Qian Xian'er's deep love, hurt Yu Wenjing's tenderness, and made Lu Rong live in a loveless marriage. No wonder Lu Rong always wanted to get the Tang family's property. Presumably she married Tang Wentao just for money. When Tang Wentao couldn't find love and felt insecure, he became mentally twisted and used all means to remove obstacles for his daughter. Because of his scum, he hurt his children, the woman he loved, and the woman who loved him. What a complete scumbag. Fortunately, my mother did not follow Tang Wentao, otherwise I don't know if she would have been further hurt. At that time, he must have thought that Qian Xian'er would always be willing to follow him, so he would do such a crazy thing and hide his marriage. If he was really afraid that Qian Xian'er would know that she left him, he would not do this. It must be relying on Qian Xian'er's love for him, he acted selfishly. In the end, my mother was very sad. Fortunately, with Xian Kaiping's company, she was able to slowly recover from the minor injury. Without Xian Kaiping's company, I don't know how my mother would have been harmed by him. It's a pity that fate plays tricks on people. 20 years ago, Xian Kaiping and Tang Wentao, the second generation of rich people who were both still young, did not have the right to marry a wife, and they had less impulse, so Qian Xian'er left with scars. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1045. Chapter 1045, Warmth Sinks 4. It's a pity that fate plays tricks on people. 20 years ago, Xian Kaiping and Tang Wentao, the second generation of rich people who were both still young, did not have the right to marry a wife, and they had less impulse, so Qian Xian'er left with scars. The only thing Qian Yuman didn't expect was that Qian Xian'er finally chose to stay with Xian Kaiping. Hold Tanyuj for a long time before he calmed down. She went to get a set of quilts to cover him, fearing that he would catch a cold. After covering herself with the quilt, she joined the cleaning team again. By the way, she used the poor rice, a preserved egg and a few other ingredients in the kitchen to make a pot of fragrant porridge. Tanyuj, who was sleepy, woke up slowly, smelled the fragrance in the air, and immediately understood that Qian Yuman was here. The expression on his face instantly brightened, and he happily washed himself up and ran out to find Qian Yuman. Qian'er, you're here. Since Tanyuj and Qian Yuman have confirmed their bed-partner relationship, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages for Tanyuj. At least he can make intimate moves with her when no one is around. Strong arms gently hugged Qian Yuman from behind. Well, you smell so bad, does it smell? Tanyuj turned around and smelled. He had been brushing his teeth and washing his face just now, but he didn't pay attention to the stinky smell on his body. It really stinked when he smelled it carefully. It looks like it's time to take a bath, Tanyuj grinned, and the evil spirit in his eyes glanced at him. It's really eye-catching. What do you want to do, Jian smiled and shook his head. How could he not see the bad intentions in his eyes? This man must have some bad ideas. What can I do? Of course I want to be with you. Tanyuj suddenly swooped over for the next time, but this time instead of hugging her, he picked up Jian, turned off the fire, and happily walked towards the bathroom with his beloved woman in his arms. Let's take a shower together. You're a man who thinks with his lower body, put me down quickly. I'm so hungry now. I have to take a bath and eat. Tanyuj smiled heartily, completely unlike the drunk and unconscious person not long ago. It was obvious that he was unhappy now. He was obviously you are a pervert, thinking about doing bad things when you wake up. In the end, Jian resisted a little, and the two happily entered the toilet and began to do strenuous exercise, not to wash the fragrance, in order to make the body no longer smell so bad, in order to be close to each other without smelling the smell. For the two of them, since they could have a pleasant chat, Jian risked her life to accompany Junzi and solve the problem of Tanyuj's smell together. By the time Tanyuj drank the porridge cooked by Jian, it was already an hour and a half later. Tanyuj looked at Jian with a smile while eating. He had been fed physically for a long time, and his eyes were smiling when he looked at Jian, a smile of satisfaction. There is nothing happier than being able to wake up after being drunk and see her in front of him. How I wish I could wake up and see her every day, and have sweet porridge to drink or delicious breakfast to eat after waking up. However, he still needs to continue to work hard. Sooner or later, he will return to his previous happy life. He still needs to work harder, and Jian will come back to him. This time she knew she cared about him and took the initiative to come to him, which made her happier than anything else. The few times he came to the house before, he either pretended to be sick or was really sick. This was the only time she took the initiative to see her, without him looking for her. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1046. Chapter 1046 Warmth Sinks 5. The few times he came to the house before, he either pretended to be sick or was really sick. This was the only time she took the initiative to see her, without him looking for her. Okay, you taste so delicious, why do you keep looking at me? Jian was almost embarrassed when Tanyuj stared at her. Look how beautiful you are. Especially after I gave birth to you, you are the most beautiful even at this time. Tanyuj couldn't help but speak obscenely. Jian almost threw the spoon in her hand at Tanyuj's face when she heard it. What are you thinking about in your head? Apart from that thing, can you think about something healthier? Don't you know that the anti-pornography campaign is very powerful recently? Why should you be caught and sentenced to 10 years for such a dirty person? Years, Jian joked humorously. Tanyuj laughed indifferently and even went along with her joke. Is it just me? I don't know who just kept yelling at me, I want it darker. You. Jian puffed up her cheeks, wanting to catch this man and beat him up. He actually had the nerve to mention that he was deliberately trying to seduce him. He was simply a bad person. What am I? Compared with you, I feel like I am at a disadvantage. If I am sentenced to 10 years in prison, you will have a few more years than me. I think it will be 13 years. He had felt Jian when they first got married. He had never seen such a contrasting woman. She looks very innocent and arrogant, but her thoughts can take hundreds of twists and turns, and she can think about all kinds of things. For example, she seduced him from the beginning. I didn't want to, okay. He had some thoughts at first, but she tried every means to seduce him, which made him lose control. Ho, Tanyuj, you are going too far. I came here to comfort you out of kindness, but you actually made fun of me, and he couldn't stop the rhythm. You took the lead. So what? Not so good. Tanyuj raised the white flag and surrendered. It was better not to argue with her, even if he was the one who suffered in the end. He still wants to please her, so he should get rid of Kenny Bryce as soon as possible and come back to him. So this time he endured it? Chien Yuman grinned happily. That was pretty much it. Chien, let's have a drink again. A man who finished his porridge began to feel lonely again. Tanyuj's interest slowly arose, and Chien Yuman immediately rolled his eyes. I see that you seem to be in a good mood now, and I don't need to worry about you anymore. Why don't I go back? Chien Yuman turned around and left. In fact, she didn't really want to leave, she just wanted to be a bit more reserved like a woman. Although I don't have this thing myself. Ah, Tanyuj suddenly screamed, covering his little heart in pain, and said sadly. I'm so pitiful. Why am I so pitiful? Why is my father so cruel? Although I had broken away from the father-son relationship with him back then, I'm still so sad. I didn't have a father to love me or a mother to love me when I was a child. Why am I so pitiful? End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1047. Chapter 1047 Warmth Sinks 6. I'm so pitiful. Why am I so pitiful? Why is my father so cruel? Although I had broken away from the father-son relationship with him back then, I'm still so sad. I didn't have a father to love me or a mother to love me when I was a child. Why am I so pitiful? Tanyuj covered his little heart in a somewhat exaggerated manner and cried sadly. Chien Yuman couldn't help but give him a dozen rolls of eyes when she saw this. Can he act more like one? This look doesn't look sad at all, it's clearly his little trick. Chien Yuman liked this trick very much. Even though she knew that a large part of him was acting, she couldn't help but soften her heart when she thought of the pain he had suffered in the past few years. She leaned over and touched Tanyuj distressedly. Okay, okay. I know you are sad. You don't have any contact with a scumbag like Tang Wentao anyway, so don't think about it. As for Tang's mother, I will accompany you to the cemetery to visit her when I have time in the future. Chien Yuman left. He came over and deliberately touched Tanyuj's head like a puppy. Okay, Tanyuj's eyes became gentle. He was just joking, but he didn't expect that she would comfort him so seriously, even if he acted so exaggeratedly. Why is she always so gentle to herself? Why is she so kind to herself? Can she not forget herself? But Tanyuj, who was extremely smart, kept staring at Chien Yuman but couldn't see through him. It seems that he doesn't love her deeply enough or understand her enough. It's his fault. How can he and her expect to get back together immediately? The problems between them had always existed at first, and he had to slowly get deeper into her life, slowly discover that she couldn't live without herself, and finally be with herself. Chien, it's great to have you. Tanyuj smiled slightly and hugged her tenderly. This tenderness was not mixed with any eroticism and was a rare tenderness. It's good to know that I'm good. Don't bother me anymore in the future. Tang Chien leaned in Tanyuj's arms, smiling happily. I feel so happy to be in his arms, I really want to lean on him like this all the time. Even if he doesn't love her, even if he has someone else in his heart, she still thinks it's worth it. Why, it seems that she is becoming more and more reluctant to leave him. Why is he so bad, and she always makes herself unable to control herself and fall in love with him? Clearly I have decided not to love her anymore and to let her go. However, this period of sinking was so crazy that I couldn't control it at all. She didn't even think about it during this period, and just followed her heart's deepest desire. But she doesn't know why. She has the feeling that even if she is scarred again, she feels it is very worth it. Tanyuj, what do you think I should do with you? Jian couldn't control the excitement in her heart and rubbed her chest twice. As she rubbed it, a certain person became different. Jian, don't move, Tangyuj said in a hoarse voice. He didn't want to think about it just now. He thought it was very warm, but why didn't his body react? Jian was speechless for a while. Didn't she realize that Tangyuj was up again? Your little gun is really powerful. If nothing happens, just point it at me and kill me. Tangyuj chuckled. You. Jian felt angry and shy for a while. Should we continue? Continue with what? Jian pretended not to know. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1048. Chapter 1048 Pregnant 1. Continue to study the structure of the human body. Tangyuj chuckled, bent down, picked her up, and rushed to the warm bed. You may not know that studying the human body structure in bed can be more thorough than in the bathroom. You can toss and turn, and the duration will be much longer than normal. Sometimes when they are tired, they can just close their eyes and fall asleep, and there will be no unnecessary things to disturb them. They can even roll from the head of the bed to the end of the bed. If it is not possible, rolling a few times on the floor is also a good experience. Okay, I understand. Let's continue. Tangyuj smiled, gently put her on the bed, and continued with the next action. As for how many times you eat, how long it lasts is a matter for the divorced couple. Tangyuj always wondered if their children would come back to them if protective measures were not taken every time. It's a pity that Jian was very thoughtful every time and had to have a condom, otherwise nothing would happen to them. As a result, Tangyuj now has a bunch of condoms in the car, in his wallet, and in every corner of his home, and the number must be large. Who knows that the scumbag of our Tang dynasty is very powerful, and not ordinary people can be done. Jian and Tangyuj didn't know how long they slept before they woke up. What woke them up was a phone call. It was Jian cell phone. They didn't want to answer the phone, but the phone kept ringing. Jian had no choice but to open her eyes and answer the phone. Hello, who is it? There was silence on the other end of the phone, and then Chao Xiaofeng shouted at the other end of the phone with an angry voice. Comrade Jian, where are you? Were you sleeping just now? What time is it now? It's only 9 o'clock in the evening. Are you a night owl looking for sleep? And the important thing is, where are you? I'm with you. I'm waiting for you at the hotel door. No one opened the door even though I kept ringing the doorbell. Don't tell me you were inside. I didn't hear the phone ring just now. Chao Xiaofeng's angry voice came over the phone. Jian suddenly scared away all the sleepy people. She sat up from the bed and looked at the sleeping man next to her, feeling guilty. He walked out the door with his cell phone in his hand, just grabbed a blanket and went out to answer the phone. I'm outside, what's the matter? Chao Xiaofeng roared angrily. You have 1 minute to get over to me immediately, otherwise you will lose my love. Ah, it's so serious, Jian pouted, still in the mood to joke with her. Yes, 1 minute has passed and you have lost my love. No. My favorite Xiaofeng, sister, I will go back immediately to pamper you. You must stay where you are and don't leave. I will be there in 10 minutes at most. Snort. Chao Xiaofeng snorted coldly and arrogantly, and hung up the phone. Jian immediately jumped up and kicked Tangyuj hard. Tangyuj, get up quickly, there's a fire and people are going to die. Tangyuj woke up slowly and looked at Jian irritable appearance speechlessly. If there's anything else, let's talk about it after I wake up. Still sleeping? Get up quickly and get dressed and send me out. Jian threw a quick set of clothes on Tangyuj and urged him to get up quickly. Tangyuj had no choice but to get dressed slowly. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1049. Chapter 1049 Pregnant 2. Tanyuj had no choice but to get dressed slowly, drove Qian Yuman back to the hotel in his 2 green sports cars, and drove away. Sugar Baby felt miserable. He got up just to take Qian Yuman back to the hotel. When he arrived at the hotel, he was sober, but he was driven away again. He almost shed tears, but luckily he couldn't hold back and didn't feel embarrassed. Qian Yuman quickly ran towards her room and saw Xiao Xiaofeng squatting at her door, sitting dumbly with her hands on her knees. Xiaofeng Qian Yuman walked over in a good mood, but her walking posture was a bit weird, the result of indulgence. Qian Yuman swiped her card and went in. Xiao Xiaofeng followed her in without saying a word. She didn't feel as strong as she did on the phone just now. Instead, she felt a deep sadness that couldn't be let go no matter how hard she went. Xiaofeng, what's wrong with you? Why have you become so haggard after I haven't seen you for a week? Looking at my friend's haggard face, I felt very distressed. She seems to have lost a lot of weight. It has only been a week, how could she put herself in such a state? His eyes were swollen, his lips were bitten and bleeding, his big watery eyes became even more pitiful, and he was not even wearing the same pair of socks. Xiao Xiaofeng stretched out her hand and put a pregnancy test stick into her friend's hand. Take a look. Qian Yuman is no stranger to pregnancy test sticks. She has used them before, and she can tell what the pregnancy test stick means without even reading the instructions. When she saw the familiar 2 red lines, Qian Yuman shouted in surprise. Xiaofeng, you are pregnant and going to be a mother. Qian Yuman was amazed when she saw it, but when she looked up and saw Xiao Xiaofeng's depressed mood, she realized that the smile on her face had faded. You and Yuan haven't gotten back together yet, have you? Xiao Xiaofeng nodded. Qian Yuman was silent. No wonder Xiaofeng was in such a low mood. The relationship between the two had not yet been reconciled. The appearance of this child really came at the wrong time. Manman, I don't know what to do. Xiao Xiaofeng started to cry, crying very sadly. Seeing her best friend so sad, Qian Yuman hugged her to comfort her. Don't cry. I'll give him a good beating and let him admit his mistake. Leaning in Qian Yuman's arms, she shook her head vigorously and cried. It's useless, he doesn't feel sorry for me at all now, he has changed his mind, and he is getting married soon. What? Qian Yuman was furious instantly. She couldn't believe it. Ye Yuan was actually getting married. From the look on Xiao Xiaofeng's face, it was obvious that she was not the one getting married. What's going on? What happened between you two? Is it because you and he are having trouble with each other during this period because he is getting married? No wonder Xiao Xiaofeng is so sad during this period. Her boyfriend is about to marry another woman. As a wife, she can't do anything. No wonder. No wonder. No wonder. I didn't expect Ye Yuan to be a scumbag. He dared to get married, so I went to blow up his wedding. Qian Yuman angrily began to curse Ye Yuan, who actually always abandoned her best friend. It would be strange to let her go. Xiao Xiaofeng kept crying, and she was crying very sadly. No matter how Qian Yuman tried to coax her, she kept crying. Tell me. What's going on? Qian Yuman was also in a heavy mood. Seeing her friend crying while she was pregnant, she thought of how she was also sad and crying during her confinement period, just like watching to my former self. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1050. Chapter 1050 Pregnant 3. Manman, there is actually something I have been hiding from you and haven't told you, Xiao Xiaofeng said while crying. What are you hiding from me? Qian Yuman realized at this moment that there must be a story between Ye Yuan and Qiao Xiaofeng. Before, she couldn't figure out why Qiao Xiaofeng and Ye Yuan had always called them friends and thought they were having an affair. Now it seems more likely that there is life that she doesn't know about. Actually, I have never been boyfriend and girlfriend with Ye Yuan. I am his mistress. When Qian Yuman heard what Qiao Xiaofeng said, her jaw dropped. She couldn't believe it. Mistress? Doesn't that mean that Qiao Xiaofeng is being kept by Ye Yuan? Not all rich men, married ugly men like to do things, but they never thought that they would keep Qiao Xiaofeng. The point is, aren't they all single? The relationship between them is obviously very good and they have feelings for each other. How could it turn into a supportive relationship? Qiao Xiaofeng then slowly talked about what happened in the past, and only then did Qian Yuman know how many things Qiao Xiaofeng had hidden from her, and it even subverted her understanding of their relationship. It turns out that not long after Qian Yuman returned to China, a story happened that changed Qiao Xiaofeng's fate. Qiao Xiaofeng's father was addicted to gambling. He was cheated in Las Vegas and owed a debt of 10 million. Qiao Xiaofeng's father was caught. The people in the casino threatened Qiao Xiaofeng with her life. If she didn't pay back the 10 million, they would kill her father. Qiao Xiaofeng had called Qian Yuman at that time, but Qian Yuman's phone had been turned off at that time, so she didn't receive the call, and she was anxious again. When she was desperate, she met Ye Yuan, whose appearance changed Qiao Xiaofeng's life. Ye Yuan is willing to pay Qiao Xiaofeng 10 million to repay her father's debt, but there are conditions. Bixi has been his mistress for 5 years, which averages out to 2 million a year. Given Qiao Xiaofeng's beauty and the price of keeping a mistress in today's society, it is definitely high, even sky high for Qiao Xiaofeng. Qiao Xiaofeng had no choice, so she agreed to be Ye Yuan's mistress. After paying off her father's debt, they lived together outside, and Ye Yuan would stay at her residence from time to time. Later, she fell in love with Ye Yuan unknowingly during their relationship. Even though she contacted Qian Yuman again later, she did not ask Qian Yuman for a loan because she wanted to stay with Ye Yuan, and she hoped to get along with her day and night. Feelings reciprocated. While getting along, Qiao Xiaofeng also learned that Ye Yuan actually had a fiancé who had settled down several years ago. At that time, she was very sad and even asked Qian Yuman to borrow 10 million to return the money to Ye Yuan, but Ye Yuan refused. The contract has been signed, even if she pays back 10 million, she also tells Qiao Xiaofeng that he has fallen deeply in love with her. Qiao Xiaofeng, who finally fell in love with her, fell even deeper into it. Even though she knew she had a fiancé, she still stayed together. Qiao Xiaofeng was still very naive at that time, thinking that Ye Yuan would break off the engagement sooner or later, because the engagement was not made by him, but was arranged by her elders when she was a child. She pushed her forward and looked forward to it. Ye Yuan was going to get married. Matter. Because Ye Yuan's grandma was sick and wanted to have a baby as soon as possible, he asked Ye Yuan to get married to his fiancée as soon as possible, but Ye Yuan said not to get married and to cancel the engagement. Originally, Qiao Xiaofeng was very happy when she found out. End of this chapter.